Good afternoon. It's the appointed time. We have a quorum. I call to order the meeting of the panel on housing. Agenda item number 1. Information papers issued since the last meeting. Since the last meeting, the Secretariat has not issued any information paper. Agenda item number 2, items for discussion at the next meeting. The next regular meeting will be held at 2:30 p.m. on 4th of May, a Monday. The administration proposes to discuss the 2 following items: 1, latest progress of light public housing, and 2, use of non-domestic premises of the Hong Kong Housing Authority. Do members have any comments on the proposed items to be discussed? If not, let's move on to the 3rd agenda item. Agenda item number 3, Head 711, project number B089TI, public transport interchange near Tan Kwai Tsuen, Yuen Long. Welcome, representatives from the administration, to the meeting. We have in attendance Mr. Daniel Long, Deputy Director of Housing of the Housing Department, Mr. Alan Yun, Chief Civil Engineer, Public Works Program, Housing Department. We have also Highways Department and Transport Department representatives attending the meeting. Welcome, everyone. Members who wish to speak, please press the Request to Speak button. I will ask the administration to brief members on the paper. I believe the Deputy Director will give a PowerPoint presentation. Yes. Good afternoon, members. We want to brief members on the funding proposal to upgrade Public Works Program item number B089TI, public transport interchange near Tan Kwai Tsuen, Yuen Long, to Category A. We want to seek views of members on the proposal to see how we can recommend this proposal to the Public Works Subcommittee and Finance Committee for consideration and to make improvements if necessary. I will take a few minutes to brief members on the project. To meet the additional demand from the increase in population in Tan Kwai Tsuen with the public housing development, we propose to construct the podium of the public housing development near Tan Kwai Tsuen, a public transport interchange of an area of 12,300 square meters. It will have 6 pick-up drop-off bays for franchise buses, 10 parking bays for franchise buses parking or charging, 1 bay for 3 green minibuses pick-up or drop-off or charging, and 1 bay for 8 taxis pick-up, drop-off or charging. We will also have 2 regulators' offices and bathrooms. We will also do some associated works, including roadworks, drainage, sewerage systems, lighting facilities, ventilation system, etc. We have an artist's impression here showing the main access to the public transport interchange. And this artist's impression here shows the inside of the public transport interchange. In terms of public consultation, on 1st of April 2022, we consulted in relation to the public roads and sewerage works near the public development, housing development project. The Yuen Long District Council and Ping Shan Hung Rural Committee. The Ping Shan Hung Rural Committee expressed concern on the public works. We will continue to maintain close liaison with the relevant stakeholders in order to take forward this project as early as possible. With reference to the urgent schedule, we have conducted parallel tendering. After we have consulted the panel on housing today, we will submit to the Public Works Committee and Finance Committee this funding proposal for approval. With the approval obtained from LegCo, we can have the public housing development project completed 4 years later. In money of the day prices, the preliminary construction cost is $349.2 million. The percentage of builders' works is about 50%, whereas the cost of building services works is about 30%. The on-cost payable to Hong Kong Housing Authority and contingencies accounts for about 20%. As said earlier, we have conducted parallel tendering. We will reflect the return parallel tendering prices in the Public Works Subcommittee paper. That's it for my presentation. We welcome questions from members. Thank you. Let me remind members that in accordance with Rule 83A of the Rules of Procedure, as this relates to a funding proposal, members should disclose the nature of any direct or indirect pecuniary interest relating to the item before they speak on the item. I should draw members' attention to Rule 84 on voting in case of direct pecuniary interest. It's now the Q&A session. Let me read out the order in which members are going to speak. We have 7 members who have pressed the request to speak button. Well, 8 now. Let me read out the order in which members are going to speak. Mr. Lee Chen-kung, Mr. Chang Ho-feng, Mr. Lau Ka-ker, Mr. Robert Lee, Mr. Chen Chun-ying, Mr. Yang Wen-kit, Mr. Dan Slung, and Mr. Hong Kam-yin. I will first ask Mr. Lee Chen-kung to speak. Thank you, Chair. 3 or 4 minutes. I'll assign a 4-minute time limit. Please exclude the first 4 seconds. Thank you. Chair, I would like to thank the administration for including designs such as charging infrastructure for taxis, franchise buses, and minibuses. I want to ask about the specifications of the charging infrastructure. Is it quick charging? If people are charging there, would that affect parking for the taxis, minibuses, and buses? Also, in the vicinity, will there be railway connections or facilities? I often want to ask for these facilities. Is it possible to incorporate elements that can increase non-ticketing or non-transport fare revenue for operators so that they don't have as much pressure to increase transport fares? That's it for my questions. Thank you, Deputy Director. Thank you, Mr. Lee, for the questions. For the specifications for charging infrastructure for buses, it would be not less than 2,000 kilowatts, 200 kilowatts. And minibuses is the same, 200 kilowatts. For taxis, it's 100 kilowatts. As for what Mr. Lee asked about whether drop-off and pick-up will be affected with vehicles charging there. We have a bay for 3 green minibuses. We will have charging infrastructure for all 3 spaces. We expect minibuses to be parked there for quite a while, and we want to make use of the 200 kilowatt infrastructure, which is quick charging, so that minibuses can charge more. For taxis, we do not have charging infrastructure for all spaces. The last 3 will provide charging infrastructure because we expect taxis to have a higher turnover. For buses, there are 8 charging posts. We have 6 of the bays we have a dogtooth layout for them to park in. As for whether we can have facilities for operators to generate non-transport fare revenue, I'll ask the Transport Department representative to answer that question. Please turn on her microphone. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Lee, for the question. The Transport Department's policy is to have franchise bus operators increase their non-transport fare revenue, and without compromising pedestrian and traffic safety, we have allowed bus operators to set up vending machines as well as logistics companies' lockers. And with the rental revenue, it can help bus companies generate some additional revenue to alleviate the pressure on them in increasing transport fares. I want to say from the design, it does not show enough information. We have some vehicles that may be stopping for charging, or there are some vehicles who are actually there to provide services. Can you make sure to provide clear information on that? Deputy Director, of course, this is just a preliminary design. We will incorporate your suggestion in future. Mr. Chang Ho-feng. Thank you. I remember in 2022 on Tan Kwai Tsuen Road, there was a public housing development seeking funding. I believe it was said the public transport interchange was to be used for residents. And we asked for the public housing development, you should make sure the traffic will only access the site to and from Shun Tat Street. But Tan Kwai Tsuen Road is being used as well, unfortunately, and Tan Kwai Tsuen Road is dual lane two-way carriageway. We have actually received many complaints from residents for your use of the road. We have many works vehicles traveling on the road before they would travel on Shun Tat Street. Now they are going back to using Tan Kwai Tsuen Road. Why? Also, if we compare this to other projects such as 800T1, the project in Area 25 Fanling North, the public transport interchange is going to serve 37,000 people, and it has a lower cost, about $100 million. With this public transport interchange is only going to serve 18,000 people, but it costs $300 million. We have many in the vicinity worried about the height of a public housing development project. It is said to be the highest in the city of 60 floors. You only said here it is 240 meters above principal daytime. Have you changed the number of stories of the public housing development? Thank you. Deputy Director. Let me answer the questions on the cost and the height first. For Phase 3, the tower above the public transport interchange, it will be around 50 floors high. We are constructing the estate along the hillside, so the ones closer will have less floors. And we have a difference of several stories. So that's for the building height. As for what Mr. Chong said about the cost, it is indeed more expensive, this project, $300 million. For the one in Area 133B in Tongchong, it has a lower cost. It is 6,800 square meters. It costs approximately $160 million. And this public transport interchange has a size of 12,300 square meters, and it costs approximately $349 million. It is a larger public transport interchange. If you take the per unit cost, it's actually lower than that of the Tongcheng project. The Tongcheng project one costs approximately $17,000 per square meter, or even 60,000 odd square meter. As for the first question, Mr. Chong should remember the 2022 project was the CEDD seeking funding. Perhaps for our site formation works, we'll perhaps have Mr. Chen from CEDD answer this question.
Thank you, Deputy Director. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Member, for your questions. The ECDD is responsible for site formation and infrastructure facilities. When it came to seek funding in 2022, our plan was to use Shen Tak Street, but in 2024, when we have resumed all the land, in early 2024, we're already using the Shen Tak Street to divert the traffic. So vehicles are going through that entrance or exit. For other vehicles, they will go through the Tan Kwai Tsuen Road. And we are pressing ahead with the works. Hope that we can connect all the access ways to the different sites so that the traffic load on Tan Kwai Tsuen Road can be alleviated. Mr. Lau Ka-Kong. The government is proposing building a PTI to tie in with the PTH development to meet with the needs of the commuting needs in the community. I'm supportive. I have questions on the details. I hope that I can hear further from the administration. In paragraph 6, the proposed PTI is located at the ground level of the podium of the PDH. Now, when I look at the artist's impression, the PTI is of a half-closed design, and some people say that ventilation will not be very good at such a design, especially in the summertime. I hope that the government can put in measures to improve the ventilation. Maybe you can try to put in some natural air. When the government planned for improvement works, you emphasize well-being design, and paragraph 7 mentions that for better design, coordination, and construction interfacing between the proposed project and the PDH, you plan to do something. Would you be able to introduce a well-being design, maybe install some chairs, real-time display facilities, consider the needs of the elderly and people with disabilities while they're waiting for the different vehicles? 2 questions. Director, please. Thank you, Mr. Lau, for your questions. When we design PTIs, we hope to adopt the principle of environmental protection. We like to have natural air flowing into the PTI. We adopt column-type design. We hope to reduce costs as much as possible. We hope that air can flow two-way. And we also conducted a microclimate study. And in summer, the prevailing wind is southwesterly wind. So the major axis will be on that side so that the air can flow in from that direction. And we also have mechanical air ventilation systems. We do have a system. Say if the air doesn't flow too well, the system can help make the adjustments. We try to save electricity as much as possible, and users can also feel some winds or breezes in the PTI. So these are the conservation measures that we adopt for PTI. Now, as for waiting space or room, when you look at this design, the places will be quite congested because many buses, taxis will be there. We don't plan for an air-conditioned waiting room because that would take up a lot of space. And people have asked us whether we can install these facilities, because we can't do that because that isn't enough space for people to wait for the different transport vehicles. We hope that people can queue up in an orderly manner. We don't want to put in an air-conditioned waiting room to block, to take up too much space in the area. So I hope that I can have answered Mr. Lau's questions. Mr. Robert Lee, next one. Thank you, Chair. We are discussing the building of a PTI near Tan Kwai Tsuen in Yuen Long. So the funding sought is $349 million. I support that. The reason being that it can help meet the needs of the housing development there, and it can satisfy the transport needs of the new 18,000 population there. The paper mentions something which I would like to follow up. Now, Pingshan Hung Rural Committee expressed concerns about the proposed works because the paper doesn't say too much about this. What are the main objections? What are the main obstacles? So what are their concerns? Can you share with us? And how are you going to address their concerns? Thank you. Deputy Director, thank you, Mr. Lee. In paragraph 10 is about public consultation. Pingshan Hung Rural Committee doesn't raise objections, but it has expressed some concerns. But maybe will that cause traffic jam? Maybe would there be any road widening works around the area so that traffic can be improved? And during construction period, would there be construction vehicles which will overload the carriageways there? So maybe can I defer to Mr. Chan from CDT to talk about the relevant traffic mitigation measures? Thank you. The Pingshan Hung Rural Committee's major concern, like what the Deputy Director said, is about the additional traffic to be brought in by the new population and whether the new roads they're going to build can cope with that, and also the relevant transport support measures. We've been liaising with the Rural Committee and regularly meet with them, and they understand or appreciate the needs for our construction, and they do not raise any objection, and we have updated them on the works whenever we can. Now, as for the transport ancillary measures, well, when we turn from the PTI to the left, we can go to Shantek Street. Shantek Street from there can onwards to the Castle Peak Road. And when you go out of the PTI, you can turn right. You can connect to a new road which connects to the Yuen Long South Tinshui Wild roundabout. So it will be vehicles can really go very fast from one location to another. So I think we are aiming to fulfill the commuting needs of the residents in the district. Next one, Mr. Ronick Chan. Thank you, Chair. So building PTI is very important to the new population there. Of course, we support that. I have 3 questions. First, there will be 7 blocks, 7,250 households, a population of 20,000 around. But then you said that the bus stations will be very congested. So would you be reserving space for additional bus routes to be operated in the future? And then the 2 pedestrian access are facing north. But then to the left of the bus stations, the site there will be used for building a primary school. Does it mean that the primary schools students, when they want to go to the PTI for taking buses, will traffic lights be installed at that access that would not be very good. Now, if traffic lights are going to be installed there, and if primary schools can cross a road for a long time, that would not help with the traffic. So we have only 2 pedestrian access, so that would not be very desirable. It will be built underneath phase 3 of the development. That means that when phases 1 and 2 are completed, then residents of these 2 phases will go to this PTI to take the public transport. Well, or rather, would you be building phase 3 first so that residents there can take the public transport directly underneath, and then they don't have to walk past the sites to take buses and other transports? There will actually be 8 blocks in the housing development. Why did I say the bus bays and all that will be very congested? We hope to accommodate as many services or facilities as possible. There are 2 lines to the left and 2 lanes to the right. Therefore, buses only. So we have maximized the use of the site by our design. While Mr. Chen is right pointing out to the left, there is a primary school. And there are some graveyards nearby, so we have to build something to sort of cover up the area. There hasn't been a design mapped out for the primary school yet. Once the design of the primary school is known, we will make sure that the PTI can meet with the needs of the primary school students. Why don't we build phase 3 first? Because we have a lot of social welfare facilities in phase 3. Around 7 to 8 stories of that phase will be used for social welfare facilities. So that will take a longer period to build those. So we would like to build the PTI here first. Mr. Chen said that we will be connecting all these together. Yes, we will build in barrier-free access so that the residents can go from their households easily to this PTI. Have you reserved extra space for additional bus routes to be provided in the future? Maybe the parking bays can be turned into pick-up drop-off bays in the future. And depending on the operation of the buses in the future, we will be making adjustments. Maybe one bay can be used for a number of bus routes. So the Transport Department will make adjustments when circumstances warrant. I would like to follow up on the charging piles. Well, in the last PWSC meeting last week, we were concerned about the charging piles. I know that you are now using 200 kilowatt charging piles. This is fast charging. Well, there is no problem with private vehicles. But if you are using that kind of speed for charging of buses, well, would that work? If we're talking about supercharging, well, these can only be provided under certain conditions. If you don't plan it now, then it won't be possible for you to build in the facilities in the future. So should you be adopting the standard of supercharging, super fast charging instead? Now, the second question is about the charging facilities. You have 10 parking bays, but then you are building 8 charging piles only. Why don't you install 10 charging piles altogether? Can you clarify? Can you not provide 10? That would be more desirable. There are only 8 charging piles in the 10 parking bays. That would not work. And then for taxis, you're talking about 100 kilowatt. These are commercial vehicles. Why don't you provide fast charging services for them so that they can charge their vehicles for 5-10 minutes, and then they can operate again? I think 200 kilowatts would be better for taxis as well. Last question. Question about the overall charging power situation. Have you asked the suppliers? Have you sought advice from the mainland counterparts as to what options will be suited to the Hong Kong situation? So, can you tell me whether your present design is good enough? Well, you're saying that these PTL will be up and running in 2030, but then, well, things would have changed by then.
Deputy Director, I guess I missed something in my earlier reply. We have some of the charging infrastructure in some spaces. As for fast charging and quick charging, we have received guidance from the EPD. We should install charging posts of relevant specs at the moment. And Mr. Yang said we have flash charging or supercharging infrastructure now in the private sector. We will follow up on this with the specific departments to see if we can improve on this. Chair, I have a follow-up. With supercharging, you can't do this at will. You need specific conditions, for example, ventilation. The design will be completely different. If you do not have this in mind in your design right now, in future, you may not be able to upgrade the infrastructure for that. I also want to ask if you have communicated with suppliers whether 200 kilowatt for charging buses is enough. I think for minibuses and private cars, it's fine. But for buses, if you have to make use of a 200 kilowatt infrastructure, how long it will take. This is very important because the capacity of buses is completely different from that of car. Excuse me, Mr. Yang, you have gone way past your time limit. I will now ask the Deputy Director to give a reply. Thank you, Mr. Yuen, for your concern. At the moment, we do not have the latest stance on the EPD on this, but I would say as we derive a more detailed design, if there are some new technologies, as Mr. Yang, we would want to incorporate that and we will deal with that. I hope that with new technologies it will not increase the cost. Mr. Danslang. Thank you, Chair. Chair, if we look at information about Tan Kwai Tsuen public housing development, it has 7 hours and the towers are very high. Before, public housing would only go up to 38 to 40 stories. With the 7 blocks, they can go up to 60 or at least 50 odd stories. So they will be able to accommodate quite a number of people. And if we look at the map, they said there will be southwesterly winds. The entrance faces north, and that is the towers will be facing the hill. And we have the towers surrounded in the east, south, and west. With access of pedestrians and vehicles, they should be north or northwest. How can you make sure with your equipment, you have proper ventilation. How much of a flow in air will you need? Can you provide some specific figures? You will have some supercharging infrastructure for many buses and taxis. How much space will the infrastructure occupy on pedestrian roads? How can you make sure the infrastructure will not cause any accidents to pedestrians? The access will be in the northwest. You will have people walking there to take buses. For bus passengers, they should not be as much of a hazard. But for many buses and taxis, how can we make it safer for passengers to be dropped off and picked up? When we talked about the Tongcheng project, we also talked about how when the project is surrounded by other buildings, we can still achieve ventilation while trying to save electricity. Can you provide relevant information and the map to us showing us the height of the buildings so that we know the design actually meets our expectations and demands? Thank you, Chair. Deputy Director. I will ask my colleague, Ms. Wong, to answer the questions on the design. As for charging posts, how can we have protection that would protect the charging posts from being damaged by vehicles? We can provide more information when we have a more detailed design for the public transport interchange. As for ventilation, you can see the access is on the northwestern side. With the microclimate design it should meet the requisite standards. So we have quite good ventilation. Perhaps I'll also ask Ms. Wong to talk about the design of the ventilation system as well. Thank you. We try to adopt green and natural ventilation concepts in the design of the ventilation system of the public transport interchange. And as said earlier, we will have during summer southwesterly or prevailing southern winds. And we will, as much as possible, have natural air and hence natural ventilation within public transport interchange. In terms of mechanical ventilation, we will have air from southwestern side and the eastern side, external fresh air for ventilation. Thank you. Mr. Hong Kamin. Thank you, Chair. I speak in support of this item being upgraded to category A because we need to meet the commute needs of 18,000 odd people. We will have charging infrastructure. We will also have a shared toilet for this project. I want to seek an answer from the department. We will have charging infrastructure for new public transport interchanges, but then for older bus interchanges, we do not have such charging infrastructure. As we have more electric vehicles, you will need more of such infrastructure. Will you have space for additional charging infrastructure at the public transport interchange? I also want to ask, we have a shared toilet. Can the toilet be used by passengers as well as minibus and taxi drivers? On ventilation, I understand what you said about microclimate, but then the findings of your microclimate studies often deviate from actual impressions of passengers. So I would say perhaps you should install fans for ventilation as well. You need to also take into account the needs of an aging population. That's my suggestion. As for public consultation, you said you have, by circulation, made a report to the Yuen Long District Council and Pingshengtong Rural Committee. Why did you only do so by circulation? Did you give them an oral presentation so that you can really seek their views? Thank you. Deputy Director, thank you, Mr. Hong, for your questions. The shared toilet is used by the franchise bus operators only, the 2 bus operators. On top of the public transport interchange, we have a shopping mall. Most citizens will be able to make use of facilities in the shopping mall. As for space or spare power for charging infrastructure, we will make sure to take that into account so that in future, with bus operators or other operators wanting to put in place more infrastructure, they will have room for that. As for ventilation, we actually have a smart system. We have, on days where it is less windy, they will increase the flow of air. It kind of works like fans, really. We often only make use of an information paper to report to District Council. I'm very dissatisfied with the reply. Why do you only allow bus operators to use the toilet? Why not for minibus and taxi drivers? I'll perhaps let Ms. Kwan from the Transport Department answer this question. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Hong, for the question. In general, with our design, we have the most frequent users being bus operators, which is why we set up a toilet specifically for them. For taxi and minibus drivers, as the Deputy Director said, they can make use of toilets in the shopping mall nearby. And most of the time, they have to stay in their respective vehicles. We have 10 parking spaces for charging. So we therefore expect more franchise bus drivers to frequent the area, which is why we have specific facilities for their rest. And we have a toilet specifically for them. I think what they said is unreasonable. They need to take into account the needs of minibus and taxi drivers. Well, I think the administration can note this suggestion, and you can't really distinguish between bus or minibus drivers. How can you check their identities specifically, right? Ms. Julie Lau, I would like to first declare an interest. I am an alternative director for KMB. I want to talk about specifically standards for restrooms for bus drivers. 30-odd years ago, I worked on a project, and in the 90s, the condition was very bad. There were no windows. I believe the conditions are better now, and we have more female drivers. Now, I want to ask, what are the standards for resting areas for bus drivers? I want to ask if the standards have been enhanced, whether there is natural ventilation, is there air conditioning, for example. I want to say that bus drivers are accountable for the lives of many, so they need to have a good rest environment to protect citizen safety.
Deputy Director, please. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Ms. Lau. Right now, the rest area for bus captains, the design has improved substantially. For example, for the Tan Kwai Tsuen toilets. I'm talking about the rest areas, not the shared toilets. We will have a 40 square meters rest area. Now, apart from the toilet, there is an rest area in an office. So the rest area is around 40 square meters. So it's quite spacious. Thank you. Next one, Aaron Book. Thank you, Chair. I wonder whether I am raising the same questions as others. Well, let's take a look at the plan here. There are 6 pickup drop-off bays for franchise buses, pink, 10 parking bays for franchised buses, parking or charging. Why do we need 10 parking bays? It seems too many. Well, if there is good justification, there is no problem. I just wonder why that is the case. Now, you have to provide for a bigger area to provide for these facilities. And then on this plan, there is this blank space. I don't know what use it will be put to. Now, there is the blue part, and on top of that, there is a boundary, and in between, there is a large area, blank space. And that means that the bus stops has to be moved southwards, and towards the south, it is a hill. So you have to cut the slopes, and that is very costly. So I just want to know what that blank space is will be used for. Deputy Director. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Book, for your question. There are some graveyards there, and also slopes. There is no way that we can relocate the graveyards. So the PTI has to be set back towards the south, because that area cannot be used. Why there are 6 pickup drop-off bays and then 10 parking bays? We're talking about many bus routes here, and in the evening time or during the nights, these buses will be parked there and they will be charged there. The buses will not be going to the headquarters. So normally the bus captains will be parking the buses there at the the parking bays at night. Oh, let me declare an interest. I'm a director of a company and a non-executive directors for 2 construction companies. I have worked on this project sometime in the past, and I know exactly where the graveyards are. And then you say that there is a hill between the graveyard and the PTI. I am not sure about that. If we are providing 10 charging facilities there, that means that the PTI has to be moving towards the south, and then you have to cut a lot of slope in the hill in the south. So that would be a lot more costly. The smaller the PTI, the better it will be. Well, or rather, you should be providing such charging facilities elsewhere. Deputy Director, yes, thank you, Mr. Bok, for your questions. For the PTI in Tung Chung, no facilities for taxis and minibuses are going to be provided. And the members expressed that they would like to provide facilities for minibuses and taxis in this PTI. We try to strike a balance here. We don't want the footprint to be too big or too small. Well, let me ask my colleague, Ms. Wong, to explain further. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, member, for your question. Well, let me supplement. The graveyards are outside the boundary of the map. So it's on a higher elevation. We need a retaining wall. So within our boundary, there is a mild slope, and that will take up half of the space of the blank space that you mentioned. But for the remaining half, we need the EVA, emergency vehicle access. So that will be located within the white space here. So the PTI has to be built behind the EVA. Thank you. Next one, Mr. Dennis Leung. He's now speaking for the second time. If there is no other member wishing to speak, I will stop the discussion of the item after Mr. Leung talked about. There are different number of pickup, drop-off bays and parking bays for different types of vehicles. Does it mean that there will be supercharging facilities for each type of vehicle, 100 and 200 kilowatts for each charger, or there will be just one cable connecting all these facilities? If this is a shared cable, then we won't be able to achieve the fast or supercharging function. Thank you, Mr. Leung, for your question. For the supercharging, while they will be provided independently, there are one bay for 3 green minibuses, and each will come with charging facilities. And there are 8 taxis, pickup, drop-off points, and 5 of them will be provided with charging facilities. So each charger or charging facility will be supplied with electricity independently. I think all the members who wish to speak have already spoken. So I would like to ask members whether members support the proposal to be submitted to the Public Works Subcommittee for scrutiny. Yes, so all agree. So members who have spoken all support this proposal. Now, let's move to the 4th agenda item, measures of the Hong Kong Housing Authority to support the needs of elderly residents. Let's welcome the administration team, including Mr. Michael Hong, Deputy Director of Housing, Ms. Catherine Au, Assistant Director of Housing Department, Ms. Laura Chan, Senior Housing Manager of the Housing Department. So we'll wait while the team files in. Members can press the request to speak button now. Can I ask the Deputy Director brief us through the use of a PowerPoint presentation? Can I ask my colleague to spend a few minutes to brief members on the paper? Yes, Chair. Members, good afternoon. The Housing Authority attaches a lot of importance to the elderly in our PRH estates, and their healthy development is crucial to the sustainable development of the society. So I'm going to brief you on the support measures for the needs of the elderly residents. We hope to build a very age-friendly environment for the elderly facing an aging society, so making the care for their needs extremely challenging. Well, there are approximately 740,000 residents aged over 60 living in our PRH estates, accounting for about 35% of all residents. We will adhere to the core values of creative, attentive, responsible, and enthusiastic. We are improving hardware and software measures. First, on hardware. In September 2024, we launched the Wellbeing Design Guide. We would like to enhance the quality of our housing. So well-being is now widely adopted in new estates and improvement works for old estates. And we are specifically designing the estates adhering to the principles of age-friendliness, intergenerational, and inclusive living. We will be using clear pictorial signages. We will be installing leaning benches and lift lobby. At long corridors, we will install handrails to meet the needs of the elderly so that they would like to go out more. Intergenerational and inclusive living. We would like to build an inclusive space. There will be more community facilities, social seating, so that we can promote the interaction among the different age groups. In implementing well-being design, many improvement works have been carried out in different estates. In Ping Shat Estate, communal fitness playscape is being built, Kung Fu elements are incorporated to take care of the needs of the different age groups. And in Kai Yim Estate, well, for corridors seldom frequented by residents, they have been revitalized into community living corridors. There are good patterns being drawn on the walls to add fun to physical exercises. And well-being design is also integrated with universal design so that the design is more age-friendly. We have adopted the barrier-free access design to take care of the needs of the elderly and mobility-impaired residents. In new build estates, we have adopted universal design. We have built-in ramps and handrails. We also have such facilities so that elderly can take a rest while walking these pathways. There are covered pedestrian walkways. They are also connecting the different housing blocks and the facilities in the estates. We will also take reference from the doctors and physiotherapists advised to adapt or carry out adaptation or modification works for residents. If such cannot be done, the households can apply for transfer to another estate, and we would do our best to help. In terms of improving facilities in planning for public housing estates, we will take reference from the Hong Kong planning standards and guidelines and reserve space to provide appropriate facilities. In coming up with a trade mix, we would be mindful about the demographics of the estates so that the elderly residents can get the basic needs as much as possible. So, for example, we will be allowing for clinics and pharmacies to be built there. We are also adding in a lot of physical exercises for the facilities. For example, Tai Chi, push hands exercise, forearm exercises, and foot reflexology paths, and so on. And the lift modernization program has been carried out since 1988, and we have completed modernization works in over 1,700 lifts. We would also be installing handrails, illuminated visual displays, audio floor announcement system, sensors on lift doors, and so on and so forth. And in some old estates, some stories cannot be retrofitted with lifts. So we are testing on some stair climbers so that the elderly can go up there to their floors. That's with convenience. We are now piloting the stair climbers in some estates, and we will be reviewing the operational effectiveness. Software measures. Well, in terms of SSF and also application for PRH, we have launched a number of priority schemes for families with elderly members and also different rental privilege schemes. We have the full rent exemption scheme for elderly households where all family members are aged 70 and they are living in under-occupation households, housing for senior as citizens of Type 1 design or non-self-contained converted one-person flats. They can enjoy full rent. Up to the end of last year, about 640 eligible elderly households have been successfully reallocated under the scheme.
We will also provide support to Doubleton and Singleton elderly households. We actually proactively liaise with social welfare organizations to make referrals for these households. We work with the social welfare department closely to take part in support for carers project. We ask property management personnel to take part in relevant training. Starting from the end of 2025, we have new property management contract clauses requiring property management companies to have at least 20% of their frontline staff take part in relevant projects. We work with social welfare organizations to provide better care. For example, we have the call-on-call program installing 200 fall detection sensors that will, when the alert is triggered, contact the Senior Citizen Home Safety Association. Should the sensor be triggered, it will be connected to the specific contact person or the emergency services. In terms of application of technology, we have the iHousing mobile app providing residents access to estate information anytime and enjoy various services. We will continue to promote to elderly persons the use of such services. In March of 2026, we have a smart access system so that elderly residents do not need to remember the passcodes. We plan to introduce the system to more housing estates. On cross-departmental collaboration, the Housing Department has been working with the Social Welfare Department since July 2025 to identify Singleton and Doubleton elderly households who have not received any social welfare service. Care teams will then be deployed. From July 2025 to end of January 2026, care teams have contacted and visited over 32,200 households and made over 2,200 referrals. The Housing Authority actively works with NGOs to hold diversified community activities. In the 2026-27 year, we will collaborate with NGOs with the initiative of Estate Friendship. We will also encourage elderly persons to take part in volunteer services. The Housing Authority also works with other government departments, for example, the Department of Health, to launch the I'm So Smart Community Health Promotion Program. We also took part in the Department of Health's weight management plan that will last for 3 years. We will have more smart skills in the communal areas of housing estates to enhance awareness of elderly residents in this regard. We also support charitable organizations to provide mobile services for Chinese medicine and physiotherapy. We have set up mobile service base in some of the accessible areas in housing estates for these vehicles to park in. We've also provided some recreational facilities in the vicinity of these mobile service base. We disseminate information to elderly residents. For example, we have promoted to elderly residents election related events as well as the other oral care activities. We encourage residents to take part in volunteer programs. We have the housing department has its own volunteer corps that will conduct regular visits for also elderly residents to expand their volunteer network. The housing authority is currently working with the town gas company to provide thermal ventilators to elderly residents. In the end, the housing authority wants to provide a favorable living environment and care-oriented services for elderly residents. We want to have an elderly-friendly and more well-being-oriented public housing estates. That's it for my presentation. Thank you. We have 15 members who have pressed a request to speak button. Let me read out the order in which members are going to speak. Mr. Chen Chunying, Mr. Chong Ho Fong, Mr. Lau Ka-Ker, Mr. Robert Lee, Mr. Lau Man Kong, Ms. Kok Fu-Yung, Mr. Hong Gum-Yin, Mr. Yang Wing-Kip, Mr. Dennis Leung, Ms. Elaine Chik, Ms. Grace Chan, Ms. Judy Chan, Mr. Vincent Ching, Mr. Aaron Bok, and myself. I'll assign 4-minute time limit. Mr. Chan Chunying. Thank you, Chair. As we see an aging population in the city, I absolutely support the Housing Authority in promulgating different elderly-friendly measures. About the pre-test for well-being design, we have 5 public housing estates, and I believe Kayib Estate project has completed its project in Q3 of last year. I want to ask if the Housing Bureau has collected feedback from residents to accumulate experience and improve the facilities if necessary in future. I also understand that for some older estates, for example, Yaoi Estate and Lotfu Estate, these are the older estates that will make use of new stair climbers to provide support to elderly residents or residents with mobility issues. We also have some shopping malls that have stair climbers, but due to lack of repair, they have just been left idle. So I want to ask for these new stair climbers, what new characteristics are there to prevent this from happening? I also note the paper say that since 2020, the Housing Authority would provide full rent waiver for households who have an under-occupied housing unit surrender the unit, but we only have 640 households do that. That's not a lot. Will the administration conduct a review of the arrangements, perhaps lower the age restriction as well as relax the restriction on applicable units so as to increase the turnover of public housing units? Thank you. There are 3 questions on Let's Go well-being design pretest. We have some new projects, and when we implement these new projects in recent years, we have workshops that will have public participation during the process. We also ask stakeholders to provide specific feedback to see how we can do better. As for the second question on stair climbers, we want to make use of stair climbers because, well, we're using a new model because the one before can be quite bulky, and now we have this new model that is remote controlled. It is also safer. We want to pilot this stair climber, which we believe already has quite good feedback from residents before. We have full rent waiver for households of elderly persons age 70 or above move to a smaller unit. These arrangements are not popular because I'm sure you understand they have attachment to their current unit, there is really no pressing need for them to move to a smaller unit. To provide them with more support, we provide information on different options elderly residents can go for. We also provide a removal allowance for them. And if they need help moving, we also have organizations that can provide support. And in future, we'll continue to take the direction of publicizing the relevant arrangements. Thank you. Mr. Chang Ho-feng, Deputy Chairman. We have 740,000 public housing residents aged 60 years old or above. The government has been promoting the integrated development of the Greater Bay Area. We have the Fujian scheme, we have the Guangdong scheme. The Housing Department, in response to this, provides letters of assurance to residents to basically trial the arrangements of retiring in the Greater Bay Area, and if they can't adjust, they will be allocated public housing units. But then this actually creates quite a significant psychological barrier. They have to first surrender their units before they can obtain this letter of assurance. If they cannot adjust and they come back, they will need to wait for a long time, and they don't know where they will be allocated housing. So some elderly residents ask me if it's possible to provide them with some sort of grace period so that they can live in the Greater Bay Area mainland cities for 6 months or a year. If they can't adjust, they can just come straight back to their original unit. Or if you have to have them surrender the units, you can perhaps give priority for them to go back to their original estate or original unit. I want to ask how long, in general, these residents who cannot adjust to the lives of Greater Bay Area mainland cities come back to Hong Kong, how long they will have to wait for another housing unit. Right. Deputy Director. Thank you, Mr. Zhang, for the question. We do understand the concern of elderly residents. Even if we're just moving within the city, we're concerned, not to mention moving to another city. Under the letter of assurance arrangements, we actually reserve the unit for 6 months, and the residents will surrender the units after a certain period of time. We have this letter of assurance basically being a guarantee for us to allocate them with another housing unit. We try to, as much as possible, assign a unit that is familiar with the resident, but it may not be the original unit, because once a unit is freed up, we try to allocate the unit to the next person on the waitlist as soon as possible. We have issued 90-something, and we have 90,000 letters of assurance, and 81 of them came back. Alright, basically, it does not mean you will leave the units vacant for the resident. Well, actually, for 6 months, we will be reserving the unit. After 6 months, we will release the unit. So within 6 months, they can always go back to the same unit. Thank you. Mr. Lau Kao-keng. Hong Kong is faced with a challenge of an aging population. We have 740,000 of those living in public housing aged 60 or above. That accounts for 35% of the total number of residents in public housing. I appreciate the different measures to support the needs of elderly residents in public housing estates. I hope that the administration will continuously review the effectiveness of the measures and create a more favorable environment for elderly households. As at September last year, we have approximately 500,000 odd singleton and Doubleton elderly households in Hong Kong. We have many cases that see the deaths of elderly residents. In August last year, we have a singleton elderly living in Kwai Tsuen East Estate found dead 1 year and a half after they have died when a housing department officer discovered this. We have seen great improvements with the smart door system as well as the fall detection sensors. I want to ask about the feedback and the results of the arrangement so far. For the smart door system, which 2 estates will see the installation of such systems? Do we have plans to expand the arrangements of the installation of fall detection sensors to other estates? Will the administration work with other departments to set up a cross-departmental platform to share data so that social welfare organizations, especially those specializing in elderly and carer services, so that they can know better the situation of elderly households? Lastly, we have the paper talk about how the Housing Authority provides additional recreational facilities for 100 estates that have a higher elderly population. Which estates do we have a higher elderly population, and how many of them relative to the total number of estates? What is your timeline for adding such facilities? Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Director. Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr. Lau, for your questions. First, about the fitness facilities. Every estate is retrofitted with fitness facilities for the elderly. Let me share some data. Among the 197 estates under the Housing Department, we have 2,600 sets of fitness facilities for the elderly. Like what the paper says, several years back, for housing estates with a relatively high proportion of elderly, we will work on them. But now, provided that there is such a demand from the residents and there is space in the estate for such facilities, we will definitely provide such facilities. We are also very concerned about elderly getting lost. As in the what's pointed out in the PowerPoint presentation, we are working with the Social Welfare Department. We are sharing data with them so that we can identify the hidden elderly and provide them with appropriate service. The results are very good. So going forward, we will work together with other departments two more estates will be picked for installation of the smart access control system. That is Dongwei Estate and Tinian Estate. Mr. Robert Lee. Thank you, Chair. Measures to support the needs of elderly residents are very important. So we would like to enhance the quality of living for the elderly. I have two questions. First, the paper mentions that the Housing Authority and Housing Department are offering electronic payment service to the residents. But how can we encourage more elderly residents to use them? Can the government send some staff to teach the elderly residents how to use these systems? And then there are a lot of scams today. And money can be easily swindled out of the elderly residents. So would you be showing care for the elderly on a regular basis, monitor the use of the electronic service payments? And then in Appendix 5, there are a number of fitness facilities for the elderly. But these are facilities which are used by an elderly on his own. But can we provide more facilities for group games and group exercises? For example, you can build in some table tennis tables, tables for Chinese chess games, and so on. They may not take up a lot of space, but I think you should be providing more facilities for games which involve interaction among the elderly. So the elderly should not be just doing exercises on their own. I hope that the administration can respond to these questions. Thank you, Mr. Lee. Well, first on your second question, yes, we are working on the interactive facilities. In most of the housing estates, we do have tables for Chinese chess games. We will continue to provide those. We do have table tennis tables too. And we also have badminton courts, basketball courts. We will continue to enhance such facilities. On elderly using e-payment services, for new estates, we have a dedicated team to teach new residents on how to download the iHousing mobile app and how to use e-payment systems to pay their rent. So these are the measures for the new housing estate residents, hope that they can adjust to such payment methods. And for old estates, we have dedicated teams to promote the systems among the residents. Some residents may like to come to our office to pay their rent, and that will provide a very good opportunity for us to explain to them the e-payment systems, which are much more convenient. Online payment is better, it's more convenient, so on and so forth. We would continue to promote e-payment systems for paying rent. Mr. Scott Land, Vice Chairman. Thank you, Chair. I do see results of the different measures. Now, the housing authority used to provide just a basic living, but now they have progressed to provide a quality living environment for residents, and that is something very good. But the key lies in how to expedite the improvement works in older estates and adopt the technologies much faster. Now, well-being design is my concern. In the paper, it says that this is a concept incorporated in new estates, and in old estate we have the Let's Go well-being design pretest. I have participated in such schemes myself. I have worked together with my colleagues on such projects. But then the housing estates are aging fast. Now 5 estates are under this Let's Go well-being design pretest program. What is your target for expanding the scheme to other estates? Do you have any indicators? What criteria would you use to pick the estates to implement such a scheme? Is it the proportion of elderly residents and so on? And how and when will you regularize such programs? Can you share with us your thoughts? And then working together with property management companies. And I'm glad to see that in new property management contracts, you have asked the property management companies to pay special care to the elderly. Now, you do have such a clause in your tenancy agreement, but how are the property management companies implementing such clauses? How would you further boost the role of property management companies in caring for the elderly? And also the housing department is also working together with the care teams. Would you also be pulling in the property management companies to help you identify the elderly who are in need and provide them with assistance as soon as you can. Thank you, Mr. Long, for taking part in the past few years in our workshops on happy well-being design. Apart from the 5 housing estates under the pre-test, we are picking 10 housing estates every year to refurbish the exterior walls of the housing blocks. So the PowerPoint presentation showed the results of our work on those 10 estates in the past year. We will continue to head towards that direction, and every year we will pick 10 housing estates for such works. For each estate, we will also be coming up with action plan on improvement works or minor works of a lot smaller scale. So the elements of the well-being design guide will also be incorporated in such minor works. We look at the social seating just now, and this is a very good design. So the social seating will be of a different height to cope with the needs of the people of different physiques. And there are also hooks and hanging devices for the elderly to hang their sticks and walking aids and so on. Property management companies, after they have worked on some improvement works, they have to submit records for a reference. And if they don't work properly, then points will be deducted. Ms. Kwok Fuyong, I agree with the HD's core values of creative and attentive, responsible and enthusiastic, and I am happy that they are providing the 740,000 residents aged over 60 to a quality living environment, and 35%, or rather, these elderly residents account for about 35% of PRH residents. I would like to get some more figures from the housing department. You talk about the adoption of technology to enhance the household safety environment of the elderly. In April 2025, in Kwun Tong Wan Hong Estate, Homentins Shanglok Estate, you are implementing the IoT door sensor system installation for elderly households. So if the doors have not been opened for a long while, their relatives will be notified. And you said that in 2026, you will select 2 additional PRH estates to implement such a scheme. Now we're talking about hundreds of housing estates in Hong Kong. I think you are acting too slowly. You're being too conservative. And also, this scheme is very, very much a voluntary scheme. So would you be more proactive or aggressive in rolling out the scheme? Now the scheme will be joined by the elderly households on a voluntary basis. Now, would you be incorporating such door sensors as smart fall detectors and so on in new housing estates? Will these be made standard items in the new housing units? And then property management companies, you said that clauses requiring property management companies to participate in the SWD's Walk with Carers project by arranging at least 20% of their frontline staff. Now, 35% of PRH residents are elderly people. So how do you come up with this figure of 20%? If the estates come with a higher population of elderly population, would you be raising this figure 20% or more? And can you give us the details of your training programs? Will it include helping them to identify the elderly in need and so on? Yes, Ms. Kwok, thank you for your questions. First, about the use of technology. Such centers. Well, we have some 800,000 households, but most of these houses do not need such sensors. These are only needed by singleton or doubleton households. If all housing units are fitted with such sensor systems, that might not be an effective use of resources because the majority of residents do not need such facilities. So we should adopt a targeted approach and only install them in houses which need them. The installation of such sensors is relatively easy these days. So we will not work on all units. We will be adopting a targeted approach, and that would be a better use or more effective use of resources.
For the frontline personnel training, why we selected security guards as the priority group, because they will see residents getting in and out of the buildings. 20 is actually quite a prudent figure. We want to push it up to 50 or have all frontline personnel take part in training. It's just about distinction, and if they're able to identify the households with needs, referrals can be made to our officers for follow-up. Thank you. Mr. Hong Kam In. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Deputy Director, for briefing members on the specific measures. I have served Po Tat Estate residents for over 20 years. I have some suggestions as I know well what elderly residents think. We have mainly elderly residents, when they move in, they do not need canes, and afterwards they need canes or even become wheelchair bound. But there is a bump where the gate is. It is very hard for wheelchairs to go past it. So you really need to improve the design. The doorways are often too small too, so wheelchairs, especially electric wheelchairs, can't get in. It's really best to remove the bump of the house at the doorway. We also need to prevent elderly residents from falling. We need to have enhanced materials. Some tiles get damaged quite easily. So in future, you have to make sure you select durable materials for tiles. As for your building entrance, if the door is too heavy, elderly residents can't really open doors, and some security guards, due to security concerns, won't open doors for elderly residents. Even if elderly residents with cards can access the buildings, the doors don't open, so they can't get in unless security guards help them with the door. I also want to talk about German technology. I think in future really need to keep up with the times. We don't want to only find out about elderly residents dying after we smell it. We have seen this happen time and again, and we really don't want this happening. I can see you have fall detection sensors. We should make sure these sensors are installed. Can we also provide a list to security guards for them to pay attention to certain units? If they don't see residents coming in and out of the unit or the building, they should get in touch with their contact person or the resident themselves to prevent any tragedies from happening. Due to time constraints, I'll stop here. Mr. Michael Hong, Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Wong, for the questions. There are quite a number of them. Let me first answer the first one. When an elderly resident moves into a public housing unit, if they need some modifications done, we can do it for them. But if modification works cannot be done, they can always apply for a transfer. We do make sure to make use of anti-slip materials, so please rest assured, member. As for the doorway, we understand sometimes elderly residents have trouble with the entrance doors. The security guards try to help them, and the reception of each building, the security guards actually have a list knowing which units may require special assistance. Thank you. Mr. Yan Wen-Kit. Thank you, Chair. At first, weather conditions, we see power outage in some public housing estates, and lifts don't work during those times. I want to ask if you will have emergency power, especially for elderly residents who need ventilation machines. Care teams do have some of these machines, but they don't have a lot. I think we shouldn't only rely on care teams for this. If the housing department have a box of electricity, that power should already be sufficient for ventilation machines or fans. Can you make such equipment available during emergencies? This will be a great support to elderly residents. As for lift design, I note that you have some enhancement measures where you have some stair climbers outside the buildings. But you really have to delineate responsibilities with Link. Sometimes when we get to a certain location, Link would say in future they won't be dealing with the repair work. It would be, say, the housing authority. Can we have in future the administration taking responsibility for this? For example, Lok Tong House in Lok Fu Estate really need a stair climber, and due to disputes with Link, nothing happened. So in future, you really have to think about that if you're implementing more support measures for elderly residents. You said the Smart Door initiative will be extended to other housing units. I want to know what the government's timeline is. As for Smart, we have many delivery services, food delivery or other e-commerce services. We also have robots sending deliveries to hotel rooms. Can we in future have robots deliver packages or food deliveries onto housing units so that elderly residents don't have to come downstairs to collect deliveries? Thank you. Deputy Director, we do not have mobile power equipment at the moment, but we will try to find out more with Mr. Yang to see if we can acquire such equipment to provide help to elderly residents. As for lifts, since 2008, we have added a lot of lifts. But for property that is split with Link have their own stakeholders. We have some rules in the DMCs as well. We need to really also gauge the actual demand. In another district, we have been able to reach an agreement with Link, and they are going to pay for such infrastructure. We will continue to work with them on the situation in Lot Fu. As for robots, we do want to explore this option. As we see developments in technology, maybe we can introduce such technology at the right time. Thank you. Mr. Dennis Leung. Thank you, Chair. We have seen there are 740,000 residents aged 60 or above living in public housing. I note in paragraph 18 of the paper, the housing department's officers will proactively visit elderly households, but there are no specific figures. Can the administration share with us some figures? How frequently they make such visits? Are these monthly visits or annual visits? For example, I also note the housing department has a well-being design, and there are many facilities to improve the lives of elderly residents. But I'm concerned about the financial aspect. The housing department would allocate funding to housing estates for them to undertake their own improvement works. But then for some recreational facilities, some housing estates have sold their car parks or shopping mall assets. In order to retrofit such facilities, they need to work with Link or some other owners to work that out. You said you would liaise with owners like these, but sometimes it would take years, and the discussions are still ongoing. What can the housing department do to actually implement well-being design to benefit elderly residents? Thank you, Deputy Director. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Member, for your questions. Let me first answer the second question. For the well-being design, you can see the design is more colorful, but then it doesn't cost much more than before because we're just painting. So we paint something white or paint something more colorful, it actually costs the same. For improvement works, with the chair being of a different height will not change the cost. We do see great results, and we have not seen a significant increase in costs. We have had before improvement works in estates where we have split ownership. We have been working with owners such as Link to work on this, and it is actually not that difficult. We have regular liaison with the owners. What Mr. Young said is an exception because the infrastructure incurs a significantly higher cost. But in general, the owners welcome any maintenance or value-adding works in the housing estate. As for visits made to elderly households, when weather gets cold, we actively reach out to elderly residents to see how they're doing. We talked about this in paragraph 18, and we're mentioning this because starting from the end of last year, we want to adopt a more focused approach to visit those who are older. Right now, we adopt a threshold of 60, but as you understand, some of those who are in their 60s are still doing quite well. And on this occasion, we take a more focused approach of visiting those who are age 90 or above. And we have 28,000 to 29,000 of such residents. So we want to focus on this group. In the future, we will probably lower the age group and visit other elderly residents. Thank you. Ms. Elaine Chick. Thank you, Chair. I would like to thank the Housing Authority for briefing members on the measures to support elderly residents. We have pressing needs for such support as we have a lot of elderly residents. The Housing Authority has done well so far. I appreciate their efforts. I note paragraphs 14 and 15 are on lift modernization program and lift addition program. I support the programs because with lifts going out of order, it can really create inconvenience for elderly persons. About paragraphs 14 and 15, I want to ask, there are lifts in use for over 25 years that have to be replaced. How many are there? And according to the figures in paragraph 14, we will have every year 110 lifts replaced. How many years will it take to have all the lifts to be replaced? I also want to ask how long lifts would have to be in waiting to be replaced for the modernization program. I also note in paragraph 15, you said for Yaoi Estate and Lawful Estate, you have installed stair climbers so that those on the top floors can make use of this. It can really help elderly residents or residents with mobility issues. But I understand for some floors that do not have lift access, for the district I serve, Eastern District, Hinghua 2 Estate and Susai 1 Estate, we have stair climbers that can be used when lifts are undergoing maintenance. So I want to ask how many stair climbers there are in of the Housing Authority. Can these be used in different districts? And if certain estates have such needs, can they apply for installation of stair climbers?
How much does it cost to acquire a stair climber? When people use these stair climbers, do they need a professional to help them? If yes, how many staff members would you need? Now, staircase are very much needed. Will the administration consider introduce more staircases, climbers in housing estates, say, for use in emergency situations where there is a power outage or the lifts stop working or become dysfunctional? Thank you, Mr. Chick, for your question. Lifts. We do have a total of 6,300 lifts. We have completed works, LM works of around 1,700 lifts. For lift in use for over 25 years, we will look at them one by one. And we will set priorities as to which lift should be worked on. On average, under the LM program, lifts which are being worked on have been in use for around 30 years. There is no hard indicator. We'll be looking at the performance and the records of each lift. Well, the lifts of a recent age are performing better, and so we'll be looking at whether we should use 25 years as a threshold. Well, we are actually working on the project on a rolling basis. Now, stair climbers. When we work on the lift modernization program, we are also using stair climbers, but they used to be old-fashioned. And then for the stair climber in that paragraph, it can be remotely controlled, and it is of a more sophisticated nature. And we will acquire some more to see whether we would proceed with acquiring more. Ms. Grishan, I fully note the paper, and I support the exchange's measures to support the needs of the elderly residents. I have some suggestions. The state market supervision authorities do have a standardization committee in early March 2026. It announced 2 measures for standardization. And one is on the needs of demented elderly. One part is about the community for the demented elderly. The second is about the households of demented elderly. So how do we build a demented elderly friendly environment in Hong Kong? There are over 100,000 demented patients. 30 of them have the experience of getting lost, and the proportion is quite high among elderly residents. In some jockey club institutions and Hong Kong University institutions, we said that in Sha Tin, Kwun Tong, Wong Tai Shin, Kwai Tsuen, and Eastern District, well, they have a higher proportion of elderly getting lost. So in these districts, can we improve on the living environment of the elderly? Can we expedite the building of smart housing estates and build, say, demented-friendly living environment? In St. James Settlement and also the Jockey Club Center for Positive Aging, and they have this program which provide some devices for tracking the lost elderly people. They are giving out these devices to the shop owners. They've been very successful because they don't walk on one particular estate, and they are asking 500 or so shop owners to help out in 18 districts. So they form a network to help track the lost elderly people. They'll be able to track down the lost elderly people and identify their location expeditiously. So if we can add in this demented-friendly element in our housing estates, and if we can also introduce the nation's standards in this regard into our design, that would be best. Thank you, Ms. Chan, for your sharing. We have not paid special efforts targeting the demented elderly, but for our design menu, we have put in signages to facilitate the elderly identifying which floor they live in. Ms. Chen referred to certain devices. To my understanding, the police do have such plans which are being implemented. So we are helping the elderly in every way possible. Thank you. Ms. Judy Chen. Thank you, Chair. First, I would like to recognize the efforts of the Housing Department in supporting the needs of the elderly residents. Much of the paper is about making the best use of Geron technology because we're talking about different sensors, smart access control systems, and so on. In previous occasions, I heard that in some housing estates, certain units will be selected for installing sensors at their doors. So if the doors have not been opened for several days, notification will be sent to the management office. It seems that the paper is silent on this point. Is it because this is an initiative of the SWD, hence it is not mentioned in this paper? I think this is a good application of Geron technology. So do we have a timetable to extensively use such technology? I know that you have paid a lot of efforts in working across different departments to help the elderly. There were mentions about the Department of Health, encouraging the elderly to do more exercises, and so on. Would you also consider catering to the preferences of the elderly? Elderly like to do some planting, so in the housing estates there may be space which can be designated as a sort of farm, community farm, so that they can carry out some planting there. And can you also work with the Home and Youth Affairs Bureau? We mentioned a lot about hardware, but software is also crucial. Elderly people need company. So if HYAB can encourage and motivate more young people to accompany, to be companions of the elderly, that would be best. In your PowerPoint, you show a lot of pictures, and there are pictures of long corridors, but there are not benches there. No, for elderly who are of poor health, please provide more benches for them along the long corridors. That should be part of your well-being design. And if there are going to be more electric wheelchairs, are the corridors wide enough to accommodate these wheelchairs? Well, first about the corridors in the well-being design, it is also mentioned that if a corridor is longer than 50 meters, benches will be installed. We will pay attention to that. So we do put in a lot of efforts on the hardware front. And this is plain for all to see. And our aim now is to work more on the software. Not everything is listed in the paper. Ms. Chan talked about planting or farming. And in most of our estates, there are planting areas for the residents to engage in some planting activities. And elderly like such activities. And this year, more of such activities will be organized. Elderly do not necessarily need our help, especially for the young old. They can help other residents in the estate. So we will be heading towards that direction in organizing activities. Leveraging IoT, we will also work on those fronts. We will continue with our work in Dongwui and Tinian Estate. And in paragraphs 20 and 21, we have mentioned about our initiatives there. 3 members are waiting to speak. I will allow these 3 to speak first, and then I will end the discussion of this item. Mr. Vincent Cheng, Chair. I have a question on well-being design. The paper says a lot about the improvement works, and the residents told me that the environment has been beautified, so this is much to be encouraged. I have 3 questions. When you work on well-being design, you have the less well-being design pretest, and one of the pilot estate is Check-on Estate. Well, several years back, it says that the first wave would be completed in the first phase of 2025, and the entire project will be completed in 2027. But it seems that not much progress has been made, so I would like to find out about the progress. Second, on the timetable, the LCSD has put in some integrated park, but the progress has been slow because they have to gauge views from the residents, and the consultation takes a long time, and they need time to order materials which are not the ordinary types of materials in building these parks. But do you have a timetable, or do you have a requirements on mandating the contractors to complete such works within a certain period? Some parts have been damaged, and for replacing the parts, that will take a long time. And they have told us that because the parts are special design, they have to wait for them to be shipped from Europe, and we have to wait for a long time before the repair work can be done. Can you give a pledge as to when such parts can be repaired or replaced? Earlier on, I visited a housing estate. There was a large space for the kids to cycle. There was a big lawn. And then your colleagues told me that, well, the lawn has not been completed yet, so the residents should refrain from stepping onto the lawn. And then it's not easy to maintain the lawn. So I think it's not being put to use after a long period of time. So please think about all these, how you should do better.
Deputy Director. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Fitz-Ching. He actually participated in many of our activities, and he has provided some great views to us. According to our program, we will complete the relevant project in 2027. We held a design competition before. We have worked with the awardees to flesh out the designs. We are proceeding on schedule. Every year, we will have 10 additional estates for beautification of external walls, as well as some minor improvement works. Once we have a design, we try to engage the public. That was the approach we adopted before. Now we involve the public early on before we even have a design, so we can be more targeted by finding out what residents want to have improved. As for what Mr. Fitz-Ching said about specific works, we actually have term contracts now. We do not need a second contract. We just have to issue some orders for a component to be repaired. But if a component has to be replaced, then it would unfortunately take 2 or 3 months. Mr. Ehrenbach. Thank you, Chair. I first have a question on stair climbers. You said you're testing it out at Yao Estate and Lok Fu Estate. Are you talking about stairs in shopping malls or stairs of the housing estates? We have in Yao Estate lifts that can go up to the top floor from the ground floor. There are only some floors in the middle that do not have lift access, but that's what you can improve on by adjusting what floors lifts can stop at. You do not need stair climbers. I also want to ask about paragraph 21, where you said you are making use of IoT sensors, but then you can also make use of smart water meters to see how much water is being used. Say the children of an elderly resident can make use of an app to check water usage, and they can find out more should there be the case that no water is being used. Deputy Director, for Yao Estate, let me clarify the situation. We do not have lifts going to the top floor, and we have already had made sure there are openings for each floor, and the stair climbers is used for the top floor because the top floor does not have lift access. So we're trying to provide assistance to those with needs on the top floor. We are actually also working with the Water Supplies Department. They have been working in the direction suggested by the member. I guess we can take a multi-pronged approach. We now often have a cross-departmental approach to make good use of the resources. Thank you. It's now my time to speak. We have gone beyond the designated time, but I will be the last one to speak anyway. We have quite a number of estates that have a high ratio of elderly population. For example, for the constituency I serve, we have an estate in North Point. We have also Heng Tong Yutong estate in Saiwan Ho. We have also Henghua estate in Taiwan. These are all estates that are old themselves but also have a high ratio of elderly population. So we need the stair climbers, we need the lifts, we need the handrails in these estates. We have also some housing estates that only have escalators go up but not down. We have some estates that do not have lifts. Or what is it called? Oh, stair climbers. Will we conduct a comprehensive review to review the needs of elderly residents in these estates, to improve infrastructure in these estates? For example, to install the IoT sensors. For estates with a higher elderly population, they really need these. You shouldn't wait until you collect feedback after piloting these arrangements. You should have a comprehensive review of the needs of residents. For, say, the fall detection sensors, with the application of technology in general, the housing authority basically is only making use of technology for the emergency alert system. But there are many applications of technology. Why not make use of other more reliable or convenient technologies to prevent elderly accidents? Thank you. Deputy Director. Thank you. We keep an open mind on the application of technology. We consistently review different options. We do not only make use of technology in the emergency alert system. We are making use of the IoT sensors and fall detection systems. These demonstrate we are exploring different tools to provide support to elderly residents. But sometimes it also depends on the acceptance of elderly persons. We do not have a good response, seemingly, for the installation of door sensors. If for 48 hours the doors are not open or closed, there will be an alarm, so they have to notify us in advance. There is some sort of coordination involved. Sometimes residents feel like we are trying to find out about what they're doing, so we really need to communicate with them. We want to work out some arrangements so that they don't have to give us prior notification. We try to also explore other good options, and we will make use of them if they are good. We also have some estates that have some suggestions for installation of recreational facilities. We do gladly take feedback on those, any suggestions. As for where we need to, where it is considered necessary to install ramps, we also welcome such suggestions. Thank you. Deputy Director, all members have spoken. Let's move on to the fourth agenda item, any other business. Is there any other business to be proposed? If not, meeting adjourned. Thank you. Thank you.